Hey everyone, this is Chris Crazyhouse back again for Fan Art Friday. Another episode is here, and for those who don't know, this is a segment that I do on my YouTube channel where I like to sit back, relax, and draw a character from pop culture, whether it be comic books, animation, or what have you. And these are characters that I did not create or have anything to do with. I just enjoy drawing them and having fun here. And while I'm drawing, I'll sit back and talk about some of the history of the character, talk about a little bit of nostalgia for those who are classic collectors of pop culture, and we could also talk about some of the best appearances of the character, or even some of the best creators and artists who brought the character to life. So today, I'm going to be doing something a little different. Last time you see me draw both the Incredible Hulk and also the Thing from the Fantastic Four. So if you haven't seen those, you can go back and watch those two episodes. But today I'm going to be drawing a villain. Actually, one of the most ferocious and most dangerous villains in the Marvel Universe. And that's Sabertooth, the arch nemesis of Wolverine. So if you're not familiar with Sabertooth, many of you who are my age watched that X-Men cartoon from the 90s. That was probably the best portrayal of Sabertooth outside of the actual comic books. And in my opinion, they have not gotten Sabertooth right at all in any of the movies that he's appeared in. He appeared in the original X-Men movie from, what year did that come out? Was that 2000? And then later on in that Wolverine's Origins movie, they had a younger version of Sabertooth, and that was also terrible. Okay, they have not gotten my man Sabertooth right at all in any of the movie versions that they haven't put out there. Maybe since Marvel now owns the rights again to X-Men and they can add them to the MCU, they'll do Sabertooth some justice. So, for those who don't know the character of Sabertooth, his real name is Victor Creed. He is a mutant, and his power is basically, it's very similar to Wolverine's. He does have claws, but it's on his fingertips. He's very feral. He's a lot more feral than Wolverine is. They call him Sabertooth because he actually does have very sharp fangs that protrude from his teeth. And this character is, the best I can describe him is, he is a psychopath, but also a sadist. He has no remorse or there's nothing holding him back from causing harm or death, but he also has a mean streak where he enjoys seeing other people in pain, and he especially enjoys causing pain to Wolverine. Now, in my opinion, I think Sabertooth knows he really can't beat Wolverine fully in a fight. Like, he can't really kill him, but he likes to see Logan suffer. So he'll cause death to people around Logan. One of the original times he killed Logan's girlfriend, they insinuated that he might have sexually assaulted her as well, but in the comic books you kind of see that he just really killed her and ripped her apart just to mess with Wolverine. And he's done that several times over the years, and they've been going at each other for decades. I think they started out as friends. I'm not sure if that whole idea of them being related has ever been substantiated. I don't think it's true. So I remember for a while in the 90s they were trying to insinuate that Sabertooth was Wolverine's father. That's not true. But then, in the movie version, they tried to make it seem like they're actually brothers or half-brothers. I don't think that's actually true either. They just worked together while they were in the military, and they both have very similar powers. Sabertooth also has a healing factor, but unlike Wolverine, Sabertooth does not have the adamantium on his skeleton. But, like I said, he almost doesn't need that, because like I said, the man is a straight up savage. He always has been. One of the most dangerous characters in the Marvel Universe. So, a lot of people don't know much of Sabertooth's actual first appearances in comics. I'm one of the few people that knows that, only because I used to read a lot of different comics from both the 70s and 80s, and I have some in my collection still. So Sabertooth actually was not a X-Men villain at first. He actually started out as an Iron Fist villain. Yeah, that's That's how obscure his origins come from. Like, he actually started out as an Iron Fist villain, and Sabertooth would also appear in the Iron Fist Power Man comics, and he was basically just a mercenary at that point. Like, he still had all the same powers. Like, he had the heightened senses, he had the claws on his fingertips, and he was very savage and feral. But I think at that point he was just like a mercenary. They didn't know his real origins yet, and I don't even think he was a mutant at first. I don't know if they actually established that early on with his character. But later on, like, my first knowledge of Sabertooth actually comes from the Spider-Man comics. He appeared in Spider-Man as a mercenary for hire. He was hired by someone to go kill the Black Cat, and of course, you know, at that time the Black Cat and Spider-Man were dating, so he comes into direct confrontation with Spider-Man, and it was a two-part. Like, he comes in the first issue, he shows up and fights Spider-Man, and Spider-Man shoots webs on Sabertooth's face, and in trying to get the webs off his face, he winds up tearing parts of his face off. So, like I said, this early version of Sabertooth, I don't think he had the extreme healing factor yet. That's why I said his character was not so well established at first, because him ripping his face off is the end of that issue, and he actually has to go to the hospital. And he's very injured by that. And when you see him the next time he appears in Spider-Man, he actually has his face bandaged up at the hospital. Now, of course, he escapes from the hospital, winds up killing a bunch of hospital workers, nurses, and doctors and whatnot. And he wants revenge on Spider-Man and the Black Cat. And he eventually finds them it's actually like Peter Parker's having a party at his house. I think Mary Jane threw a party at his house, and Sabertooth comes there looking for him. But, you know, Peter's trying to keep the secret that he actually is Spider-Man, but Sabertooth finds him because he knows Spider-Man's scent. So that's the dilemma in the book, of Peter still trying to keep things hidden. And I think actually the Black Cat actually winds up taking out Sabertooth by the end of that issue. She uses her claws and rips his face and bashes his head against the concrete. Like I said before, this character was not well established back then, and I don't even think he even knew that he was a mutant with a great healing factor at that point. You know, other writers get control of a character and they change it completely later on, because he gets his ass whooped by the Black Cat. I don't think that would actually happen with the Sabertooth that is established now. So, you know, like I said, he wasn't as defined as he is now. So he definitely would not lose a fight to the Black Cat. And having his skin ripped off his face would not be that big of a deal, okay? Because like I said, the Sabertooth that we all know and love now has taken way worse punishment and been okay. He's actually been like pummeled by the Hulk, and, you know, been able to heal up and be better later on. So it's not, you know, like I said, characters change as time goes on. They're not the established characters, and you have different writers and different creators who work on these characters. So I think when they finally established Sabertooth as an actual mutant is when he worked with Mr. Sinister during the mutant massacre that happened in the sewers, where Mr. Sinister wanted to get rid of all the Morlocks because he thought that they were not as sufficient as far as the next stage of mutant kind. He thought that they were kind of like just almost like a waste of the mutant gene, so he wanted to get rid of them. And one of the killers that he unleashed on them was Sabertooth. And obviously Sabertooth was all for that because, like I said before, the man's a sadist. He enjoys killing people. So if you're going to pay him and also just let him loose and give him permission to kill a whole bunch of people, he's all down for that. And that's exactly what he did during the mutant massacre. So, like I said, definitely not a character with any redeemable qualities at all. But like I said, in a lot of the media that you see him in outside of the comics, it's really only like that first X-Men cartoon that really got him right. Because Sabertooth is not, in the movies, the first one they portrayed him as just like a dumb muscle type character that barely can speak. He's not that at all. Sabertooth is very smart, he's very cunning. He does have a wild side, yes, and an animalistic side, just the same way as Wolverine does. But Sabertooth can think, and he's very calculating in the things that he does. Like I said, the man's a sadist, so he enjoys inflicting pain on people, and he figures out ways to mess with you mentally before he even tries to get to the physical part of it. So we have not seen that version of Sabertooth yet on film. I guess they kind of did it in Wolverine Origins, but that character was just lame to me, in my opinion. So we haven't seen him done justice yet. The cartoon probably did the best version of Sabertooth, and showed all his ferocity, but also how cunning he was as far as getting revenge and, you know, getting out his sadistic streak on different people just to get to Wolverine. So anyway, if you guys know of any Sabertooth comics that you enjoy or that you like, or any creators that you might think are probably the best at drawing the character, you would have to let me know. There's been a lot of artists that have worked on the character. I would never say that anyone had a definitive version. I know that costume that you see on the 90s cartoon was created by Jim Lee, so that was his idea. He just kind of revamped Sabertooth's old costume, and they kind of switch back and forth over time in the comics between his old costume and the new one. And sometimes he doesn't even wear his costume. He'll just be wearing a suit or something like that, or just a tank top and some jeans like in the Ultimate version. So, you know, I would never say that there's a definitive artist that draws Sabertooth better than anyone else. You would have to let me know if you think there's anyone that is the best at it. But, you know, in my opinion, just make sure he's way bigger than Wolverine. Wolverine is a runt and very short, but Sabertooth is not. Sabertooth is large. He's very tall, and he's a very intimidating size for anyone that would have to face him. So he's well over 6 feet tall. He's almost 7 feet tall. So make sure when you draw him, make him big, make him ferocious. A lot of times they don't put pupils in his eyes. They just, you know, have his eyes just be all white. I actually added made his eyes look more like a cat or like a predator of some type. So that's what the way I go with it when I draw Sabertooth. You guys let me know how you enjoy it, and let me know in the comments any of your favorite Sabertooth stories in the comics. Anyway, Chris Crazyhouse signing out. Peace.